Working at Valente's restaurant taught Cassandra 3 things about Manhattan. The rich never say, "Thank you." They tip even less. And if you're black and serving tables, you better learn to be invisible. Cassandra F. Gardner had that last part down to a science. 2 years of double shifts had taught her how to move through the dining room without being seen, how to refill water glasses like a ghost, how to take insults with a smile because rent was due and her grandma's medication wasn't getting any cheaper. Tonight had been hell. 14 hours on her feet. A manager who yelled more than he managed. $43 in tips that wouldn't even cover her subway card for the week. Her back hurt. Her feet hurt. Everything hurt. She pushed through Valente's side exit into the cool October evening and took her first deep breath in hours. The heavy door slammed shut behind her. The street was alive with noise. Car horns. Someone selling roasted nuts on the corner. Neon signs reflecting in puddles from the rain earlier. This was Manhattan at dinner time. Everyone rushing somewhere. Everyone important. Everyone except her. Cassandra adjusted her backpack and started walking toward the subway. That's when she heard the screaming. Not human screaming. Animal screaming. The kind of sound that made your blood go cold. She turned and saw chaos unfolding half a block down. People were scattering like someone had pulled a fire alarm. A massive dog was in the middle of the sidewalk, all black and tan muscle, snarling and lunging at anyone who got close. And the man holding the chain looked like he was about to lose control. He was tall, expensive suit, cream-colored, and now completely ruined. Dark hair. Even from here, Cassandra could see the frustration on his face. 2 other men in suits were trying to help him, but the dog snapped at them too. The animal was out of his mind. Pulling. Thrashing. Teeth bared. Cassandra should have kept walking. Should have minded her business like every other New Yorker on that street. But something made her stop. Something about the dog. She moved closer, weaving through the crowd of people recording on their phones. Nobody was helping. They were just watching. Posting. Like it was entertainment. The dog's eyes locked on her. Cassandra froze. That scar on his left ear. That specific pattern of tan markings on his face. Those eyes. No. It couldn't be. "Samson," she whispered. The dog went absolutely still. His ears perked up. For a split second, the aggression melted away and something else flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Then he exploded forward with twice the force, yanking the chain so hard the man in the cream suit stumbled. The dog was coming straight for her. People screamed. Someone yelled, "Run." But Cassandra couldn't move. Her feet were cement. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. 7 years. 7 years since someone stole him from her grandmother's porch in Brooklyn. 7 years of wondering if he was dead or suffering or forgotten her completely. And here he was, in Manhattan, belonging to some rich man in a suit. The dog was 10 feet away. 5 feet. Close enough that she could see the foam at his mouth, the wildness in his eyes. Cassandra dropped her backpack. She lifted her hand to her chest. And she tapped. 3 times. Tap, 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 tap. The pattern she'd taught him when he was just a puppy. Their secret signal. The one that meant safety. Home. Love. "Lala salama, Simba," she whispered in Swahili. "Sleep peacefully, lion." The dog stopped so fast he nearly flipped over his own paws. The snarling stopped. The pulling stopped. Everything stopped. He sat, right there on the wet sidewalk. And he whimpered like a puppy. The silence was deafening. Cassandra dropped to her knees. Her hands were shaking as she reached out. "Samson. Baby, it's me. It's Cassie." The dog crawled forward on his belly, whining, his whole body wiggling. When he reached her, he pressed his massive head against her chest, and the sound that came out of him broke her heart all over again. He remembered. After 7 years of God knows what, he remembered her. Cassandra wrapped her arms around him and let the tears come. She didn't care about the crowd, didn't care about the phones recording, didn't care about anything except this moment. Mississippi. The voice was deep, controlled. The kind of voice that was used to giving orders and having them followed. Cassandra looked up. The man in the cream suit was standing over her. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that missed nothing, a face that belonged on a movie screen or a wanted poster. "You," he said slowly, "come with me. Now." It wasn't a request. One of the suited men stepped forward. "Mr. Marshall, we should leave before I said now." The man's eyes never left Cassandra. "Bring the dog. Bring her. We're going home." "I'm not going anywhere with you," Cassandra said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "That's my dog. You stole him." "I didn't steal anything." His voice was ice. "I bought him 3 years ago from a breeder. Legal. Documented. Paid. He was stolen from me 7 years ago." Cassandra stood up, keeping one hand on Samson's head. "His name is Samson. He has a scar on his left ear from when he cut it on a fence as a puppy. He only responds to Swahili commands because that's what I taught him." Something flickered in the man's face. Surprise. Calculation. "You're lying." "Am I?" Cassandra tapped her chest 3 times again. Samson immediately sat at attention, eyes locked on her. "Simba, Tembia. Walk." The dog stood and moved to her left side, perfectly healed. She'd never trained him to heel. But somehow, after all these years, he still knew. The man stared at them for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Vittorio. Clear my schedule. We have a situation." He paused. "No. Handle it. I'll be at the penthouse in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at Cassandra. "You want your dog back? Fine. But first, you're going to tell me exactly how you controlled an animal that 3 professional trainers couldn't fix. And you're going to do it in my home where we can talk privately. And if I refuse, then I keep the dog. You go back to your restaurant. And we both spend the rest of our lives wondering what could have been different." He was blackmailing her, using her own dog as leverage. Cassandra looked down at Samson. At the scars on his body she hadn't noticed before. The way he was too thin. The shake in his back legs like he'd been beaten. Whatever this man had done or hadn't done, Samson had suffered. And she wasn't leaving him again. "Fine," she said. "But I'm not going anywhere without him." The man almost smiled. "Almost. Wouldn't dream of separating you." He gestured to a black SUV parked at the curb. "After you, Miss Gardner. Cassandra Gardner." "Mr. Marshall." He didn't offer a first name. Donald Marshall. The name meant nothing to her. But the way his guards moved around him, the way people on the street suddenly found somewhere else to be, told her everything she needed to know. She'd just agreed to go home with someone very dangerous. Cassandra picked up her backpack and walked toward the SUV. Samson pressed against her leg. Behind her, Donald Marshall watched with those calculating eyes. And somewhere in the city, in an office Cassandra would learn about soon enough, a younger man with the same last name received a call about the dog. And smiled. The penthouse was nothing like Cassandra expected. She'd imagined dark wood and leather. Maybe some paintings of dead relatives. The kind of place that screamed mob boss from every corner. Instead, it was modern. Clean lines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Everything white and chrome and expensive in a way that made her afraid to touch anything. Donald led her through the main room to a smaller space off the side. It had been set up like a dog kennel. Professional grade. Temperature controlled. A bed that probably cost more than her monthly rent. And Samson hated it. The moment they tried to put him inside, he planted his feet and refused to move. He needs to be contained, Donald said. He's dangerous. He's terrified. Cassandra knelt beside Samson. Look at him. Really look.
Donald did.
And for the first time, he seemed to actually see what she was seeing. The way Samson's whole body trembled. The way his eyes kept darting to the corners of the room like he expected something bad to come from the shadows. What did they do to you? Cassandra whispered, running her hands over Samson's fur. That's when she felt them. The scars. Dozens of them hidden under his coat. Thin lines. Burn marks. Places where the fur had never grown back properly. Her stomach turned. Mr. Marshall. She looked up at him. I need to examine him properly. All of him. And I need you to tell me everything you know about where he came from. Donald's jaw tightened. I bought him from a breeder 3 years ago. Viktor Kozlov. Russian. Came highly recommended for protection dogs. Protection dogs or fighting dogs? There's a difference? Cassandra stood up slowly.
Yes.
A big one. Fighting dogs are tortured into aggression. Protection dogs are trained with respect and boundaries. Samson wasn't trained. He was broken. She spent the next hour examining every inch of him. Shock color burns on his neck. Rib bones too prominent. Teeth that had been filed down. Old fractures in his legs that had healed wrong. Donald watched from the doorway.
Silent.
His face unreadable. When she finished, Cassandra sat back on her heels. He's been starved.
Beaten. Shocked.
Probably fought. Everything that made him sweet and trusting was beaten out of him. Can you fix it? I don't know. She looked at Donald directly. But I'm going to try. And it's going to take time.
Weeks.
Maybe months. You can't rush trauma. Donald nodded once. Then you stay here. I'll have a room prepared. Whatever you need. I need you to stay away from him for now. He associates men with pain. Something flickered across Donald's face. Hurt, maybe. Or understanding.
Fine, he said.
But I want to know what you're doing. I want updates. Deal. That's how it started. The next 3 weeks became a routine. Cassandra woke up early. Spent hours with Samson.
Talked to him in Swahili.
Reintroduced him to gentle touch.
To trust.
To the idea that not every hand would hurt him. Progress was slow. The first week, he wouldn't eat unless she hand-fed him. Wouldn't sleep unless she was in the room. Flinched at every sudden movement. The second week, his tail wagged. Just once. Just for a second. But it was there. By the third week, he was starting to look like the dog she remembered. Still cautious. Still damaged. But healing. Donald watched from a distance. She'd catch him standing in doorways. Sitting in chairs across the room. Always quiet. Always observing. You can come closer, she said one evening.
He's ready.
Donald approached slowly. Sat on the floor a few feet away. Didn't try to touch. Just sat. Samson's ears flicked toward him. Tense. But he didn't growl. That's progress, Cassandra said softly. How did you learn this? Donald asked. My grandma. She used to rescue dogs in Brooklyn. The ones nobody wanted. The fighters. The bait dogs. The ones everyone said were too far gone. Cassandra smiled at the memory. She taught me that patience is the only language trauma understands. Is that how you got him? Samson.
Yeah.
Someone dumped him in an alley when he was 8 weeks old. Grandma found him. But I was the one who raised him. trained him, loved him. Her voice cracked. And then one day I came home from school, and he was just gone. Someone cut through the chain on our porch and took him. I'm sorry. The apology surprised her. Men like Donald Marshall didn't apologize.
Didn't show weakness.
I stopped trusting people after that, Cassandra continued. Figured if someone could steal the thing you loved most, what was the point of loving anything? Donald was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. My father used to lock me in the basement. Said it would make me strong. Teach me not to be weak like my mother. His voice was flat, emotionless. After she died, I raised Vittorio, my younger brother. I was 15. He was 5. I made sure he never saw the basement. Cassandra looked at him, really looked at him, saw past the expensive suit and the cold eyes and the reputation. That's why you wanted Samson trained to be aggressive, she said. You thought you were making him strong. I thought I was keeping him alive. You were keeping him controlled. That's different. Donald met her eyes. I'm starting to see that. Something shifted between them in that moment. Some wall came down. Some understanding passed through the space where words couldn't reach. The organization noticed the change too. Donald's men would walk past the training area and stop to watch. The unteachable dog now sat calmly at Cassandra's feet, followed her commands, even let some of them pet him. Respect grew, not just for the dog, for her. You got magic hands or something? One of the guards asked her one morning. No magic, just patience. But one person's presence always changed everything. Vittorio, Donald's younger brother, started showing up regularly. Always polite, always charming, bringing coffee, asking questions about her techniques. But Samson's reaction never changed. The moment Vittorio entered a room, Samson's whole body would go rigid. His lips would pull back. A low growl would rumble from deep in his chest. Still doesn't like me, I see, Vittorio said one afternoon, that easy smile on his face. He'll come around, Cassandra lied. But she didn't think he would, and that worried her. One night, after everyone else had gone to bed, Donald found her sitting with Samson in the training room. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure. Why does he hate Vittorio? Vittorio's never hurt him. Never even been around him except these past few weeks. Cassandra considered her answer carefully. Dogs don't lie about people. They can't. They smell things we can't.
Fear.
Anger. Deception. Whatever Samson smells on Vittorio, it's not good. You're saying my brother is dangerous. I'm saying your dog thinks he is. And in my experience, dogs are rarely wrong. Donald didn't respond, but she could see his mind working, calculating, questioning things he'd probably never questioned before. The late-night conversations became more frequent, more personal, more charged with something neither of them wanted to name. Cassandra found herself waiting for those moments, when the penthouse was quiet, when it was just the two of them and Samson, when Donald's walls came down and she could see the man underneath the reputation. And she could tell he felt it too. The way his eyes lingered on her. The way he found excuses to be in the same room. The way the air seemed to thicken when they were close. One night, after a particularly long conversation about everything and nothing, Cassandra walked back to her room.
And stopped.
The hallway smelled like cologne. Expensive. Distinctive. The kind of scent that announced itself. She'd smelled it before. On Vittorio. Curious, she walked back to the training room where Samson was sleeping. The moment she opened the door, he jolted awake.
Panicked.
His eyes were wide. His whole body shaking. She grabbed one of the towels from earlier. The one Vittorio had touched when he brought coffee. Held it out to Samson. His reaction was immediate and violent. He scrambled backward. hit the wall, started whimpering like she'd never heard before. Not anger, not aggression, terror. Cassandra dropped the towel and pulled Samson close. Her heart was racing. "What did he do to you?" she whispered. "What did Vittorio do?" But Samson couldn't answer. He could only shake in her arms and stare at that towel like it was a ghost from his worst nightmare. The dining room was full of men who killed people for a living. Cassandra had figured that out within the first week. The way they carried themselves, the way they talked in half sentences and knowing looks, the way guns appeared and disappeared under jackets like it was nothing. Tonight was a business meeting. Donald had made that clear. The Volpe family was causing problems. Territory disputes, missing shipments, the kind of problems that ended in body bags if they weren't handled carefully. "You don't have to be here," Donald had said earlier. "This isn't your world." "Samson needs routine," Cassandra replied. "If I leave him alone during dinner, we'll lose 3 weeks of progress." So here she was, sitting in the corner with Samson at her feet while 8 dangerous men discussed 8 dangerous things around a table that probably cost more than her childhood home. Vittorio sat at Donald's right hand, the consigliere, the second in command. He was presenting strategy with charts and numbers and that smooth charm that made everyone nod along. Cassandra watched Samson watch Vittorio. The dog was tense, every muscle coiled. His eyes never left Vittorio's movements, but he stayed quiet.
Good boy.
"The Volpe family thinks we're weak," Vittorio was saying. "They think because we've been quiet, we're afraid. I say we hit them first.
Hard.
Make an example." One of the capos grunted approval. "Where?" "Their Brooklyn operation. Burn it down. Send a message." Donald leaned back in his chair. "And start a war we're not ready for." "We're always ready." "Ready and smart are different things." Donald's voice was calm, final. "We approach this carefully. I want leverage before violence." Vittorio's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Of course. Your way." Something passed between the brothers. Something cold. "Let me pour the wine," Vittorio said, standing up. "We should toast to family, to loyalty." He grabbed the bottle from the center of the table, walked around behind Donald's chair, started pouring for each man. He was heading toward Cassandra's side of the room. Samson's growl started low. "A warning." "Easy," Cassandra whispered, her hand on his head. "Easy, boy." But the closer Vittorio got, the worse it became. Samson's growl turned into a snarl. His lips pulled back, every tooth showing. "Still doesn't like me," Vittorio said with that easy smile. "Guess some things never change." He was 3 feet away now. 2 feet. Samson exploded. The leash ripped through Cassandra's hands so fast it burned her palms. She was yanked forward out of her chair, hit the floor hard. But Samson kept going. Full attack mode, barking so loud it hurt, lunging at Vittorio with everything he had. The room erupted into chaos. Chairs crashed backward. Men jumped to their feet. Guns appeared from everywhere. 5 barrels pointed at Samson's head. "No!" Cassandra screamed, scrambling to her feet. She threw herself between the guns and the dog. "Don't shoot him. Get that animal under control," one of the capos shouted. Samson was beyond control. He was barking, snapping, trying to get past Cassandra to reach Vittorio. The sounds coming from him weren't even dog sounds anymore. They were primal, desperate, terrified. Vittorio stepped backward, his face tight. "That dog is a liability. It needs to be put down.
Now."
"Agreed," another capo said. "This is disrespect. To the consigliere, to the family." "Unacceptable," a third voice added. They were all agreeing, all nodding, all looking at Donald for the final word. Donald stood slowly. His face was unreadable. He looked at Vittorio, his brother, the boy he'd raised, the man he'd given everything to. Then he looked at Samson, at Cassandra on her knees trying to hold 100 pounds of terrified animal. The silence stretched forever. "The dog stays," Donald said quietly. Every head in the room snapped toward him. "What?" Vittorio's voice was sharp.
Shocked.
"I said the dog stays." Donald's voice got louder, harder. "Everyone out. Now." "Don." "Out." The roar echoed off the walls. Nobody moved for a second. Then slowly, one by one, the capos filed toward the door, muttering, confused, angry. Vittorio stood frozen, staring at his brother like he'd never seen him before. For just a moment, his mask slipped. Pure rage flashed across his face.
Raw. Ugly.
The kind of rage that lived deep and patient and waited for the right moment to strike. Then it was gone. Smoothed over. Professional smile back in place. He walked past Donald toward the door.
Paused.
Leaned in close enough that only Donald could hear. "Choosing a dog over your own blood," Vittorio whispered. "Father would be ashamed." Then he was gone. The door closed. The penthouse fell silent except for Samson's whimpering. Cassandra was still on the floor, holding him. The dog was shaking so hard she could feel it in her own bones. His eyes were wild.
Panicked.
He kept sniffing the air where Vittorio had been standing, then pawing at his own neck. At the collar. Hey, it's okay," she whispered.
He's gone.
"You're safe." But Samson wouldn't calm down. He kept pawing at his collar. Frantic. Like something was hurting him. Donald knelt beside them. "What's wrong with him?" "I don't know." Cassandra gently removed the collar. The moment it was off, Samson stopped pawing, started sniffing it instead, then scrambled backward like it had burned him. Cassandra lifted the collar to her nose. Smelled it. That cologne. Vittorio's cologne. It was soaked into the leather. Her stomach dropped. She looked up at Donald. "This isn't hatred. This is recognition." Her voice was shaking. "Donald, Samson knows Vittorio from before. From something terrible." Donald's face went pale. "That's impossible. Vittorio's never been around him except these last few weeks." "Then explain this." She held up the collar. "Explain why the smell of your brother makes him panic. Explain why a dog who's been abused for years recognizes that specific scent." Donald took the collar, smelled it himself. His hand started shaking. "Come with me," he said. They moved to Donald's study, a private room at the end of the hall that Cassandra had never been in. Dark wood, leather chairs, a desk covered in papers, and a laptop that probably contained enough evidence to put everyone in this building away for life. Donald poured whiskey. His hands were shaking so badly that some of it spilled on the desk. Cassandra had never seen him rattled. Not once in 3 weeks. But right now, he looked like a man watching his world collapse. "Vittorio is my brother," Donald said, staring at the glass. "I raised him. When our mother died, I was 15 and he was 5. Our father was a monster. Beat me bloody most nights. But I kept Vittorio away from it. Protected him. Gave him everything." "Donald." "I've never questioned him. Not once."
He's blood.
"He's family. That's supposed to mean something." Donald downed the whiskey in one swallow. "But there's always been something. Something cold under the charm. Something distant. I told myself it was trauma, what we survived. But what if it wasn't?" Cassandra stood up, walked over to him. "Your whole life is built on control, on fear, on making sure nobody gets close enough to hurt you. And the only honest relationship you had was with a stolen dog that was trained to be a weapon. She paused. What if control isn't the same as loyalty? Donald looked at her. Really looked at her. What are you saying? I'm saying dogs don't lie. They can't. And Samson is terrified of your brother. Not angry. Terrified. That cologne. She pulled out her phone, showed him a photo she'd taken earlier of Samson's reaction to Vittorio's towel. That's not a dog who hates someone. That's a dog who remembers someone. From when he was being hurt. The words hung in the air like poison. Donald sat down heavily in his chair, pulled out his phone, stared at it for a long time. Then he dialed. Marcus. It's me. His voice was cold. Empty. I need a complete background on someone. Every detail. Everything from birth until yesterday. Bank records. Travel. Associates. Everything. A pause.
Yes.
My brother. He hung up, looked at Cassandra with eyes that held too much pain for one person. If you're right, he said quietly, if Vittorio had anything to do with what happened to that dog, it means everything I've believed for 20 years is a lie. I know, Cassandra said. And if everything is a lie, then I don't know who I am anymore. Cassandra moved closer, put her hand over his. Then we figured out. Together. Outside the study door, in the hallway that smelled faintly of expensive cologne, nobody noticed the security camera that had recorded everything. Nobody except the man watching from his own penthouse across the city. Vittorio Marshall smiled at his screen, then made a phone call of his own. Samson lost it completely around midnight. Cassandra woke to the sound of destruction. Furniture overturning. Something glass shattering. And underneath it all, a sound that made her heart break. Whimpering. Like a puppy. She ran to the training room in just her pajamas. Found Samson in the corner, shaking so hard his whole body was convulsing. He'd knocked over chairs. Torn cushions apart. There was blood on his paws from where he'd scratched at the walls. Hey, baby. Cassandra dropped to the floor beside him. I'm here. I'm right here. But he wouldn't calm down. Kept whimpering. Kept pawing at his own face like he was trying to get something off him. Something invisible. She tried everything. Gentle touches. Soft words. Their old commands in Swahili. Nothing worked. He was trapped in some memory she couldn't reach. Some nightmare that had him by the throat and wouldn't let go. Desperate, Cassandra started singing. Quietly. The lullaby her grandmother used to sing to him when he was a puppy. The one she'd sung the night before he was stolen. Lalam Toto Wangu. Lala Salama? Samson's ears perked up. Just slightly. She kept singing. Over and over. The same words in the same melody until her voice was hoarse and the sky outside started turning gray. Finally, he exhausted himself. Collapsed against her, with his whole body still trembling. That's when he did something that made everything click into place. He started sniffing frantically at her neck.
Searching.
Looking for a specific scent that wasn't there anymore. What is it? Cassandra whispered. What are you looking for? But she already knew. The cologne. At 2 a.m., Cassandra left Samson sleeping and went to Donald's room. He wasn't there. She found his bathroom instead. The cabinet with bottles lined up like soldiers. She grabbed a handful of small towels from the drawer. Started dabbing different colognes on different pieces of cloth. Then she went back to Samson. He was awake now, watching her with those sad eyes. I need you to smell something for me, she said softly. Can you do that? She held out the first towel. A woody scent. Donald's daily cologne. Samson sniffed it. No reaction. Second towel. Something citrusy. Nothing. Third towel. Spicy and warm. Nothing. Fourth towel. The bottle had been in the back. expensive looking. Creed Aventus. Vittorio's signature scent. The reaction was immediate. Samson scrambled backward so fast he hit the wall. Started whimpering again. Not barking. Not aggressive. Just terrified. Pure animal terror. Cassandra dropped the towel like it had burned her. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, it was him. It was Vittorio all along." She needed proof. Real proof. Not just a dog's reaction. At 2:30 a.m., Cassandra did something insane. She snuck into Donald's office. Into his archives. The room where he kept records going back decades. If she got caught, she was dead. She knew that. But she had to know. The files were organized by year. She went back 7 years. Started pulling folders. That's when she found them. Photographs from 7 years ago. Vittorio at 20. He looked different. Thinner. Harder. Desperate in a way the current Vittorio never looked. She kept digging. Found financial records. A sudden influx of cash in August. $200,000. The notation said animal trading connections. August. Her hands started shaking. She pulled out her phone. Googled her own past. Found the police report she'd filed when Samson was stolen. August 14th, 7 years ago. The same month Vittorio made his first major contribution to the Marshall family. The same month he stopped being nobody and started his rise to consigliera. She kept searching. Found more. Coded references to the Volpe family in Vittorio's early records. Financial transfers that didn't make sense. Meetings that were never reported to Donald. Bank statements showing regular payments to offshore accounts. Surveillance photos of Vittorio meeting with men Donald had marked as enemies. It was all there. Years of betrayal. Documented. Hidden. Right under Donald's nose. At 3 a.m., Cassandra gathered everything. Photographs. Financial records. The timeline written out in her own handwriting. The cologne-soaked towel in a plastic bag. She walked to Donald's bedroom. He was asleep. Probably the first real sleep he'd gotten since the dinner. She didn't care. "Donald." She shook his shoulder. "Wake up. You need to see this." He jerked awake, reaching for something under his pillow. A gun, probably. Then he saw her face and stopped. "What's wrong?" Cassandra dumped everything on his bed. Paper scattered across the white sheets like evidence at a crime scene. "Look at the dates," she said. Her voice was shaking. "Look at the timeline." Donald sat up. Started reading. His face went from confused to shocked to something that looked like physical pain. Samson was stolen August 14th. That same month, Vittorio brought in $200,000 from animal trading connections. That was his first success. His first contribution to the family. The thing that started his rise. Donald picked up the photograph of young Vittorio. Stared at it. "It's a coincidence," he said. But his voice had no conviction. "Look at the financial records. Look at the Volpe family connections. Look at this." She pulled out the towel in the bag. Samson reacts to Vittorio's cologne the same way he reacts to trauma. Not anger.
Fear.
Recognition. Donald was shaking his head, wanting to deny it, wanting it to be anything else. "He's my brother," Donald said quietly. "I raised him. I protected him. I took beatings meant for him. This can't be real." "I know," Cassandra said, "but it is." They sat in silence. The evidence spread between them like an accusation. At 4 a.m., there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Donald called out. A man entered. Older. Gray hair. Tired eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "Marcus," Donald said. "That was fast. You asked for priority." Marcus held out a manila folder. "You're not going to like what's inside." Donald took the folder. Opened it. started reading. Cassandra watched his face change. Watched 20 years of trust and love and brotherhood die in real time. He's a mole, Donald said finally. His voice was empty. Vittorio is a long-term mole for the Volpe family. Secret meetings. Coded transfers. Everything. There's more, Marcus said. Current plans for a hostile takeover, with your assassination as the trigger. It's scheduled for next month. The waterfront deal. They were going to hit you during the signing. Donald looked up. The dog theft. His first independent move. His first taste of power built outside your shadow. The money from selling the dog to a fighting ring got him his first contact with the Volpe family. Everything he's built since has been positioning for this moment. Marcus left. The sun was starting to come up. Pink light through the windows. Cassandra found Donald in his study an hour later. He was surrounded by childhood photos. Pictures of 2 boys. One older, one younger. Both smiling. Both looking like they'd never smile again if they knew what was coming. I raised him, Donald said. He wasn't looking at her, just staring at the photos. I was 15. He was 5. I took beatings meant for him. Starved so he could eat. Gave him everything. Power. Respect. A place at my side. Cassandra sat down next to him. You gave him power. But did you ever see him as an equal? Donald looked at her.
What?
You raised him. Protected him. Gave him everything. But you were always the boss. Always the one in charge. He spent 20 years in your shadow. Living with your charity. Following your orders.
She paused.
Maybe he's spent 20 years hating you for it. Donald closed his eyes. The dog was his first taste of independence. Of building something without my permission. And he's been building ever since. Yes. Everything he's shown me. Every act of loyalty. Every moment of brotherhood. All of it was a lie. Yes. Donald stood up. Walked to the window. Stared out at the city waking up below them. What do I do? He asked. He's my brother. But he's trying to kill me. Traditional justice says I execute him. Blood for blood. Is that what you want?
No.
Donald's voice was hard. Cold. Final. I want something worse. I want him to confess everything. I want the world to see exactly who he is. I want every family, every organization, every person who ever respected him to know he's a traitor. He turned to face her. We end this, but not with violence. We make him destroy himself. Cassandra nodded. Then we need a plan. We need a trap, Donald said. And we need him to walk into it thinking he's already won. Outside, the sun rose over Manhattan. And in another penthouse across the city, Vittorio Marshall woke up smiling. He had no idea his world was about to end. Donald was already reaching for his phone when Cassandra grabbed his wrist.
Don't, she said.
He tried to have me killed. He's been lying for 20 years. I'm calling a meeting. I'm ending this today. And then what? The Volpe family activates their backup plan. War breaks out.
People die.
Your organization tears itself apart. Cassandra shook her head. You want revenge. I get it. But revenge isn't the same as justice. Donald stared at her. What are you suggesting? We use his own trap against him. Make him think he's still winning right up until the moment we destroy him. They spent the next hour planning. Cassandra laid it out step by step. First, they pretend complete ignorance. Act like nothing has changed. Keep Vittorio comfortable. Second, announce a fake asset transfer. Something big enough that Vittorio can't resist. $50 million waterfront property. The kind of deal that would require his coordination as consigliere. Third, set the meeting somewhere isolated. An abandoned warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Plenty of space. No witnesses. The perfect place for an ambush. Fourth, let Vittorio coordinate security. He'll think he's setting the trap. He'll bring the Volpe soldiers. Draw everyone out into the open. Fifth, counter-ambush. Surround them with loyal forces. Cameras everywhere. Audio recording. Every family boss watching remotely. Sixth, force the confession. With Vittorio trapped, his betrayal exposed, make him admit everything in front of witnesses who can't be bought or silenced. It's surgical, Cassandra said. One clean cut. No war. No collateral damage. Just Vittorio destroying himself. Donald nodded slowly. And the proof. Samson. Cassandra looked at the dog sleeping in the corner. He's the only living witness to Vittorio's original crime. When Vittorio sees him there, in that warehouse, he'll know we know everything. His composure will crack. It's risky. So is a war. Donald studied her face. You want to be there? At the warehouse? I have to be there. Absolutely not. If this goes wrong. It's my justice too, Cassandra interrupted. Her voice was firm. Strong. That dog was my family. Vittorio stole him from me 7 years ago. He broke my heart. He built his entire empire on that theft. I deserve to see this through. Donald wanted to argue. She could see it in his eyes. But he also saw something else. Understanding. Respect. Fine, he said. But you stay behind me. And if shooting starts, you run. Deal. The next week was preparation. Cassandra spent every day training Samson. Not the gentle rehabilitation they'd been doing. This was different. Focused. Specific. She taught him a new command sequence. A final command. The one she'd only use when it mattered most. Simba, Linda. Protect. Over and over until Samson knew exactly what it meant. Until his body responded before his mind could think. Until the command was as natural as breathing. Donald handled his side of things. He announced the property transfer to his inner circle. Made it sound routine. Important but not suspicious. Vittorio took the bait immediately. I should coordinate security for this, Vittorio said at the next meeting. A $50 million deal needs proper protection. Agreed, Donald said smoothly. You handle it. Vittorio smiled. That charming smile that hid everything underneath. Of course, brother. I'll make sure everything goes perfectly. Behind the scenes, Donald was moving pieces into position. His most loyal soldiers. The ones who'd never been in Vittorio's network. The ones he trusted with his life. They wired the Red Hook warehouse with cameras, audio equipment, backup power, everything they'd need to document what was about to happen. Marcus coordinated with the other family bosses. Told them there'd be something worth watching. Sent them encrypted links to the live feed. Made sure there'd be witnesses Vittorio couldn't threaten or bribe. The night before, Cassandra couldn't sleep. She stood on the penthouse balcony, overlooking the city. Manhattan, at night, was beautiful. All those lights. All those people who had no idea what was happening in the shadows. You should be resting, Donald said behind her. Can't. She didn't turn around. Tomorrow, everything changes. Yes. He came to stand beside her. They were quiet for a moment. Just standing there. Breathing the same air, feeling the weight of what was coming. I'm scared, Cassandra admitted. Not of the danger. I'm scared of what happens after. When this is over. When you don't need me anymore. Donald turned to face her. Is that what you think? That I need you because of the dog, isn't it? No. His voice was rough. Raw. I need you because you're the first real thing in my life in 20 years. Everything else is performance. Survival. But you, He touched her face gently. You're real. The kiss happened naturally, like breathing, like something that had been waiting to happen since that first night on the sidewalk. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate.
Raw.
Two people reaching for each other before walking into potential death. Survival and need, and finally admitting what had been building for weeks. They barely made it inside. Clothes came off between kisses. Hands searching for skin, for warmth, for connection. When they finally fell into bed together, it wasn't about pleasure. It was about being alive, about feeling something real before everything might end. After, lying tangled together in the darkness, Donald spoke quietly. If I don't survive tomorrow, everything goes to you. The offshore accounts, the properties, the leverage files. Enough to disappear and live any life you want. Cassandra turned to face him. Her hand found the scars on his chest. The ones from his father. The ones from his life. I'm not here for your money, Donald. I'm here because for the first time in 7 years, since the day Samson was stolen, I feel like I'm home.
She paused.
That's worth more than any empire. Donald pulled her closer.
Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. They fell asleep like that.
Two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances. Two people who might not survive tomorrow. But tonight, they were home. Morning came too fast. Vittorio arrived at the penthouse at 9. Impeccably dressed. Cream suit. Hair perfect. That charming smile in place. Ready for today? He asked Donald. Always. Vittorio noticed Cassandra putting on her jacket. Samson at her feet. His eyebrow raised. She's coming. The dog needs supervision. And this is a business meeting, not a war. Donald's voice was casual.
Easy.
Like nothing had changed. Vittorio shrugged. Of course. The more the merrier. His cologne filled the room. That distinctive expensive scent. Samson's entire body went rigid. A low, continuous growl started deep in his chest. Not loud, not aggressive, just constant. A warning only Cassandra could hear. Vittorio glanced at the dog. Smiled. Still hasn't warmed to me, I see. Some things never change, Donald said. They loaded into the car. Donald in front. Vittorio beside him. Cassandra and Samson in the back. The drive to Brooklyn took 40 minutes. Nobody spoke much. The tension in the car was thick enough to choke on. Cassandra kept her hand on Samson's head, felt his muscles coiled tight. Ready. As they crossed into Brooklyn, she leaned down and whispered in Swahili. Quiet enough that only the dog could hear. Simba, Leo Tanapata Hockey. Kwa Sisi Wote. Lion, today we get justice. For both of us. Samson's ears perked up. His eyes focused. Alert. He understood something important was about to happen. The warehouse came into view.
Gray.
Industrial. Surrounded by empty lots and abandoned buildings. The perfect place for what was coming. Vittorio checked his phone. Smiled. Security is in position. We're clear to proceed. Good, Donald said. Let's get this done. They got out of the car. The warehouse door opened. And everything Vittorio had planned for 20 years was about to fall apart. The warehouse smelled like rust and old concrete. Late afternoon light came through broken windows in dusty beams. Everything was gray, industrial, empty except for a single table in the center with property documents spread across it. Donald sat at the head.
Vittorio to his right.
3 capos around them. Cassandra stood back with Samson, trying to look like she was just there to manage the dog. Her heart was pounding so loud, she was sure everyone could hear it. Let's make this quick, Donald said, pulling out a pen. 50 million is a lot of money to have sitting in limbo. Vittorio nodded. Security is tight. No problems. He checked his phone, smiled. We're clear. That's when the warehouse doors exploded inward. 8 men poured through. Volpe family soldiers. Weapons drawn. Moving fast and organized like they'd rehearsed this. Nobody move, one of them shouted. Vittorio stood up slowly. His face showed surprise. Confusion. Perfect acting. Then Donald's men appeared from everywhere. The catwalks. Behind containers. Through side doors. 15 guns trained on the Volpe soldiers from every angle. Drop your weapons, Marcus called out.
Now.
The Volpe men froze, looked at each other, slowly lowered their guns to the concrete. That's when Vittorio's face changed.
Shock.
Then confusion. Then understanding washing over him like cold water. His eyes snapped to Donald. Donald was watching him with an expression Vittorio had never seen before. Cold.
Certain.
Like he was looking at a stranger. You knew, Vittorio said quietly. I know everything. Donald stood up. Every meeting, every payment, every lie, all of it. Vittorio's charming mask crumbled like paper. 20 years of careful construction fell apart in seconds. He reached for his gun, but he didn't point it at the Volpe soldiers. He aimed it straight at Donald's chest. You want to know the truth, brother? Vittorio's voice was poison. I've hated you since I was 15 years old. You took father's empire. You took his respect. I got nothing but your charity and your orders. The warehouse was dead silent. Even the Volpe soldiers were frozen, watching. That dog, Vittorio gestured at Samson without looking away from Donald, was my first real move. My first stake built without your permission. I sold him to a fighting ring for $10,000. That money bought my first connection to the Volpe family. Cassandra's breath caught, hearing him admit it, hearing him say it out loud. Everything I built in the shadows you cast, Vittorio continued. Every success, every promotion, every ounce of respect, all of it came from that first betrayal, from stealing a little girl's dog. His finger moved to the trigger. And now I'm taking what should have been mine from the beginning. Time slowed down. Cassandra saw Vittorio's finger tightening, saw Donald standing there, calm, accepting, saw the moment about to happen. She stepped forward. Her hand went to her chest. 3 taps. Tap, 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 tap. Samson's entire focus locked onto her like a laser. 7 years of trauma, separation, and pain fell away. He was her dog again. Waiting. Ready. Vittorio noticed the movement. His gun swung toward Cassandra.
You.
The waitress. This is what he chose over me. Over blood. Over family. You and you're pathetic. Simba, Cassandra said clearly, her voice steady and strong. Linda.
Protect.
Samson launched. 100 pounds of muscle and loyalty and 7 years of trauma behind him. Not the abused fighting dog anymore. Not the broken weapon. The protector Cassandra had raised him to be. He hit Vittorio from the side. Jaws clamped down on his gun arm with perfect precision. The kind of control that came from training, not violence. The kind that disabled without killing. The gun clattered across concrete. Vittorio went down hard. Samson's weight pinning him. His arm trapped in jaws that could break bone but were holding just tight enough to keep him still. Vittorio screamed. Tried to push Samson off. But the dog didn't budge. Just held him there, growling low and continuous. Cassandra walked over. Crouched beside them. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. August 14th, 7 years ago.
Brooklyn.
You stole him from a little girl's porch and sold him for $10,000.
She paused.
That little girl was me. Vittorio stared at her. Recognition finally clicking into place. You built your entire empire on that first betrayal, Cassandra continued. Every step you took, every bit of power you gained. It all started with stealing my dog and breaking my heart. She gestured around the warehouse, at the captured Volpe soldiers, at the cameras recording everything, at the capos watching with disgust on their faces. And this is what you built on that foundation.
Lies.
Betrayal. Fratricide. Vittorio stopped struggling. Lay there bleeding, Samson's jaws still locked on his arm. Then he started laughing. It was bitter. Broken. The laugh of a man who'd lost everything. Yes, he said. I stole your dog. I sold him. And I'd do it again. He looked at Donald. Because that's when I learned the truth. Blood means nothing. Power means nothing. We're all just animals fighting for scraps. Donald signaled to Marcus. Tablets were brought forward, handed to each capo, to the Volpe soldiers, to everyone who needed to see. Surveillance photos, financial records, years of documented betrayal, communications with the Volpe family. The entire assassination plot laid bare in evidence that couldn't be denied or explained away. Donald walked over to Vittorio's fallen gun, picked it up, walked slowly to where his brother lay pinned. The entire warehouse went silent. Traditional mafia justice was absolute. Fratricide meant execution. No mercy. No exceptions. Donald pressed the gun to Vittorio's temple. His hand was steady, his face empty. For several heartbeats, nobody breathed. Then Cassandra's hand touched a shoulder.
Just that.
A gentle touch. Donald looked at her, saw something in her eyes that made him pause. He lowered the gun. You're not worth my soul, Donald said. His voice was empty.
Drained.
Or hers. He turned to his capos. Contact the FBI. Full cooperation. Give them everything. He's theirs. Let him rot in a cell knowing he destroyed everything for envy. The Volpe family representative stepped forward. Hands raised. No weapons. We were misled, he said carefully. Our alliance was based on false information. If the Marshall family is willing, we choose peace. Donald nodded once.
Peace.
But if your family ever moves against mine again, there won't be a second chance. Understood. Sirens in the distance. Getting closer. Marcus whistled. Feds are 3 minutes out. Everyone who needs to disappear should do it now. The capos melted away. The Volpe soldiers were released, weapons confiscated. Within minutes, the warehouse was nearly empty except for Donald, Cassandra, Samson, and Vittorio still pinned on the concrete. Samson, Toka, Cassandra said softly. Release. The dog let go. Stepped back. Stood at Cassandra's side with his tail wagging slowly. Finally calm. Finally at peace. Federal agents poured through the doors. Suits and badges and official procedures. They read Vittorio his rights while putting him in handcuffs. Donald pulled Cassandra close. She was shaking from adrenaline. 3 months after the warehouse, Cassandra stood in the waiting room of her new clinic and thought about how strange life could be. The space was small. A converted brownstone in Brooklyn, just 4 blocks from where her grandmother still lived. The waiting room held exactly 8 chairs, currently filled with 7 people and their damaged dogs. A pit bull with cigarette burns. A shepherd with 3 legs. A beagle who'd been used for fighting bait. Nobody here could afford a fancy Manhattan vet, but they'd all heard about the woman who'd fixed the unfixable Rottweiler. The bell above the door chimed. Donald walked in carrying coffee and wearing jeans. Actual jeans. The first time she'd seen him in anything other than a suit, Cassandra had laughed for 10 minutes straight. Morning, he said, handing her a cup. Then he crouched down to greet the three-legged shepherd. Gentle, patient, his hands confident in a completely different way than they'd been holding guns. "Mr. Marshall," the shepherd's owner said nervously. She was young. Couldn't have been more than 20. "I didn't know you'd be here today." "It's just Donald," he said. "And I'm here 3 days a week now. Cassandra's teaching me not to be useless." The girl relaxed slightly. "Is it true? About Samson? That he was a fighting dog?" "Worse," Cassandra said. "But he's in the back room right now, sleeping on his favorite blanket. Want to see?" They led her back. Samson was indeed sprawled across an enormous dog bed, snoring like a chainsaw. When the three-legged shepherd limped in, Samson opened one eye, assessed the situation, then went back to sleep. "He helps the new ones," Donald explained. "Shows them it's safe here." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for everything." After she left, Donald and Cassandra worked through the morning appointments. He was getting better at reading the animals, understanding their fear, moving at their pace instead of demanding they move at his. The first time a traumatized pit bull had let him touch it without cowering, Donald's eyes had watered. He turned away quickly, but Cassandra had seen. She'd pretended not to notice, but later that night, she'd held him while he cried for the first time in probably 20 years. By noon, the clinic was empty except for the boarding dogs. Cassandra was updating charts when Donald appeared in the doorway. "Walk?" he asked. "It's Saturday. We're supposed to be closed." "Exactly." They ended up in Prospect Park, Samson trotting between them. It was late January, cold enough that their breath made clouds. The park was mostly empty except for dedicated joggers and one confused tourist taking photos. Donald led them to a specific spot, a bench overlooking the long meadow. "This is 4 blocks from where Samson was stolen," Cassandra said quietly. "I know." Donald sat down, looked out at the winter grass. "I've spent the last 3 months thinking about family, what it means, what it's supposed to mean." Cassandra sat beside him, waited. "I was 15 when I became a father to Vittorio. Learned everything from our actual father. How to control through fear. How to demand loyalty. How to build walls so high nobody could ever hurt you." He paused. "I thought that was love. Protection plus control equals family." "Donald, let me finish." He turned to face her. "You taught me something different. That family isn't about blood or obligation or fear. It's about choice. Every single day, choosing to show up for someone. Choosing to be gentle when you could be hard. Choosing to build something together instead of taking something alone." He slid off the bench, got down on one knee in the cold grass. Cassandra's breath stopped. "I'm not good at this," Donald said. His hands were shaking. "I've negotiated million-dollar deals without sweating. But asking you this terrifies me."
He pulled out a small box.
Opened it. The ring inside was simple, elegant, nothing ostentatious. "Cassandra F. Gardner. Will you choose me? Not because you have to. Not because I can give you things. But because we built something real in the worst possible circumstances, and I don't want to spend another day without you." Samson sat down beside them, tail wagging, like he'd been waiting for this moment too. Cassandra pulled Donald to his feet. Her eyes were wet.
"Yes.
But on one condition. Anything. We're equals. Partners. No more giving orders. No more territory or control. We build something completely new. Together." Donald smiled. Actually smiled. The kind of smile that transformed his whole face.
"Deal."
The kiss happened in front of God, Samson, and 2 very confused joggers who quickly decided they had somewhere else to be. 6 weeks later, The clinic's backyard was transformed. String lights crisscrossed overhead. Folding chairs held exactly 19 people, everyone they truly trusted and nobody they didn't. Cassandra's grandmother sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief and loudly telling anyone who'd listen about how she'd always known that dog would bring Cassie something special. Donald's remaining loyal capos sat awkwardly mixed with Cassandra's veterinary school friends. Marcus was there, looking uncomfortable in a tie. 3 of the clinic's regular clients had been invited. The pit bull owner, the shepherd's mom, an elderly man whose ancient beagle Samson had befriended. The officiant was a retired judge who owed Donald a favor and had agreed not to ask questions. Samson walked down the aisle wearing a bow tie, carrying a small pillow with the rings attached. He looked thoroughly unimpressed with the indignity, but executed his duty perfectly, delivering the pillow to Donald before sitting at attention between them. "We are gathered here," the judge began, but Cassandra barely heard the words. She was looking at Donald, at the man who'd started as a threat and become her home, at the scars he'd shown her, at the gentleness he'd learned, at the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his entire world. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," Samson barked once. Sharp. Definitive. Everyone laughed. Donald pulled Cassandra close and kissed her like they were the only 2 people in the world. The reception was simple. Home-cooked food. Music from someone's phone. No elaborate venue or ice sculptures or anything that screamed mob boss. The moment Cassandra would remember forever came 2 hours in. Donald was dancing with her grandmother, slowly, carefully, listening with complete attention as she told stories about young Cassie and puppy Samson. Marcus captured it in a photo that would sit on their mantle for the next 30 years. Late that night, after everyone had left, Donald and Cassandra sat on the clinic's back steps. Samson was sprawled across both their laps, snoring peacefully. His weight was warm and solid and real. "You know the organization still doesn't understand what you're doing," Cassandra said quietly. "Let them wonder." Donald's arm tightened around her shoulders. "I spent 25 years building an empire on fear.
Power. Control.
I thought that made me strong." He gestured at the scene around them. The clinic. The sleeping dog. Her. "This is real strength. Choosing gentleness. Building something that heals instead of destroys. Trusting someone enough to be vulnerable." Cassandra leaned into him. "Your father would hate this." "Good." Donald's voice was firm. "Let him roll in his grave. I'm building something he could never understand. A family based on choice, not blood. On love, not fear." Samson shifted in his sleep, pressing closer. The dog who'd survived 7 years of hell. The dog who'd brought them together. The dog who'd taught them both what loyalty really meant. "Everything else was just survival," Donald said quietly. "This is living." Above them, the Brooklyn sky was clear enough to see stars. Rare for the city. Cassandra took it as a sign. They'd survived their worst. Found each other in the darkness. Built something real from broken pieces. And now, finally, they were home. 6 months after the wedding, the clinic was bursting at the seams. They'd hired 2 more veterinarians and 3 technicians. The waiting list stretched 4 months out. Every day brought new cases. Pit bulls with scars like road maps, shepherds who'd never known kindness, small dogs who'd been kicked so many times they couldn't remember what gentle hands felt like. Cassandra specialized in the severe cases, the ones everyone else had given up on. Her success rate was extraordinary, but she always credited the same source. They'd trust Samson. She'd tell visiting trainers and behaviorists who came from across the country to study her methods. "Through him, they learned to trust us." Samson had become the clinic's heart. He'd work with the most difficult cases, lying calmly beside terrified dogs until their breathing slowed, showing them through his presence that healing was possible. Donald spent his days there too. The man who'd once ruled through fear now sat patiently with traumatized animals, moving at their pace, speaking in soft tones. His old capos barely recognized him. Some had left, unable to adapt to legitimate business. Others had followed his lead, finding legal opportunities in construction, real estate, security consulting. The martial name was slowly changing its meaning. One Tuesday afternoon, a woman in a federal agent's badge walked into the clinic. Cassandra's whole body tensed, but the agent raised her hands peacefully. "Mrs. Marshall? I'm Agent Chen. I need 5 minutes of your time." They moved to the office. Donald appeared in the doorway, protective, but Cassandra waved him in. "This is about Vittorio Marshall," Agent Chen said. "He's in maximum security. Multiple life sentences. The evidence you provided collapsed not just the Volpe organization, but 3 others. You helped take down a network that had operated for 40 years. "That's not why you're here," Cassandra said. Agent Chen smiled slightly.
"No."
"He asked me to deliver a message. Just 3 words."
She paused.
"The dog remembers." The agent looked confused by the cryptic phrase. Cassandra understood perfectly. Even now, locked in a cell for the rest of his life, Vittorio was haunted by the stolen dog that had brought his empire down, by the first crime that had built everything, by the moment a waitress recognized what he'd thought was buried forever. "Do you want to respond?" Agent Chen asked. Cassandra considered it, thought about everything she could say, everything Vittorio deserved to hear. Then she shook her head.
"No.
He doesn't deserve my words. Let him sit with what he did." After the agent left, Donald found her in the back room with Samson. "You okay?" "Better than okay." Cassandra ran her hands through Samson's fur. "I was thinking about expanding. A real sanctuary. Somewhere animals can heal without time pressure or financial constraints. Somewhere they can stay as long as they need." Donald crouched beside her. "Tell me more." 30 acres. Upstate maybe. Specialized facilities for different trauma types. A full staff. Partnerships with shelters across the state. Her eyes were bright. "We could help hundreds. Then let's do it." Donald's voice was certain. "The money's there. Legal money. The Marshall Foundation can fund it." She turned to look at him. "You're sure? I spent 25 years building something that hurt people. I want to spend the next 25 building something that heals them." He paused. "We do this together." 3 months later, on a Sunday morning, Cassandra got a call from a Brooklyn shelter. "We have a case you need to see. Young Rottweiler, maybe 2 years old. Found chained in a basement. Severely abused. Nobody can get near him." She and Donald arrived within the hour. The dog was massive, black and tan just like Samson. But where Samson had been broken into aggression, this one was broken into terror. He was pressed into the corner of his kennel, growling at everyone who approached. His eyes were wild, desperate. Cassandra saw herself 7 years ago. Saw Samson on that Manhattan street. "Everyone step back," she said quietly. The shelter workers retreated. Donald stayed close but gave her space. Cassandra approached slowly, got within 10 feet of the kennel. The dog's growling intensified. She lifted her hand to her chest, tapped 3 times. Tap, 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 tap. The growling stopped. Confusion crossed the dog's face. "Lala Salama," she whispered. "Sleep peacefully." He didn't understand the Swahili, but he understood the tone, the patience, the complete lack of threat. His tail moved. Just once. Tentative.
Questioning.
"We'll take him," Cassandra said. They named him Justice. It took weeks of work. Slow, patient, careful work. But justice began to heal. Samson became his mentor, lying beside him during panic attacks, showing him that humans could be trusted. The parallel wasn't lost on anyone who knew their story. 1 year later, the sanctuary was complete. 30 acres in upstate New York. Custom facilities for different types of trauma. A full staff of veterinarians, trainers, and behaviorists. Funded entirely by the Marshall Foundation. They rescued, rehabilitated, and rehomed over 100 animals that first year. Every success story was documented, shared, inspiring similar projects across the country. Evening came to their Brooklyn brownstone. Cassandra and Donald sat on the couch, both exhausted from a long day. Samson sprawled at their feet. Justice was curled nearby, finally peaceful after months of work. Soft jazz played from the speaker. City lights twinkled through the window. On the mantel sat a framed photograph. Young Cassandra, maybe 10 years old, hugging a Rottweiler puppy with a distinctive scar on his left ear. Both grinning at the camera. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't walked out of that restaurant that evening? Donald asked. Every day, Cassandra said. And every day I'm grateful I did. Me too. He pulled her closer. Samson's tail thumped against the floor, the steady rhythm of contentment, of home, of family. Cassandra looked at Donald. This man who'd given up an empire for the chance at real love. Who'd learned gentleness after a lifetime of violence. Who chose healing over power every single day. She looked at Samson. The dog who'd survived hell and become her salvation. Who'd taught her that trust was still possible. Who'd brought her home. She looked at Justice. Proof that the cycle of healing could continue. That broken things could mend. That trauma didn't have to be forever. 7 years ago, she'd lost everything when Samson was stolen. She'd built walls around her heart, convinced that trust was for fools and love was a weapon. But sometimes the universe had a strange sense of justice. Sometimes what was stolen found its way home. Sometimes the most broken things, a traumatized dog, a violent man, a guarded woman, could heal each other. And sometimes a 3-tap signal on a Manhattan street could change 3 lives forever. Cassandra finally, completely, allowed herself to believe in happy endings. Not the fairy tale kind. The real kind. The earned kind. Lala Salama Simba, she whispered to Samson. His tail thumped twice. He was home. They all were. The end. Thank you for following Cassandra, Donald, and Samson's journey from broken to whole. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. You just spent an hour with these characters, and there are dozens more stories waiting for you. New uploads every day. Stories about second chances, unlikely families, and the strange ways love finds us. Drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from? I love knowing this story reached you in Tokyo, Maldives, Sao Paulo, or your living room in Ohio. What moment hit you hardest? Was it the 3-tap signal? The warehouse confrontation? The proposal in Prospect Park? Your comments literally shape what I write next. And here's the truth. You made it to the end of a good story, but you haven't subscribed yet? That's like finishing an incredible meal and walking out without saying thank you to the chef. It takes 1 second. 1 click. It costs you nothing and means everything to a creator trying to bring you stories worth your time.
Subscribe, comment, share.
Because stories like this don't go viral. They spread 1 person at a time, 1 share at a time, 1 you have to listen to this at a time. See you in the next story.